Hi everybody, it's Chris Kandai here and welcome to FAQ. Every weekday we look at a different passage of the Bible to see how it helps us to live well in lockdown and also in this cultural moment we're facing around Black Lives Matter. I was at a demo yesterday in Oxford, as socially distanced as possible, face masks were worn, hand sanitizer was to the ready. I took my children with me as well, at least two of the older ones who are very engaged on this subject. It's fascinating that there's been this global interest after the death of George Floyd, that African-American man who had his neck knelt on for 8 minutes and 40 seconds as he quietly, painfully died. And it's just awoken a sense of outrage in the younger generation especially. And it's time for us, all of us, black, white, brown, whatever colour or race you describe yourself in, to take responsibility of how we can seize on this moment to bring lasting cultural change. And so as I've been reading the Bible and watching the news, these 2 and 3 different streams coming together have brought me to the book of Esther. And we're about to see how race and faith and exile and lockdown all fit together as a plot emerges in Esther chapter 3. And if you've missed any of the earlier episodes, have a look on YouTube, FAQ with Chris Kandaya, or have a look on Instagram or on my Facebook page. But each day we're just taking a different segment of the Esther story. It's so powerful, timely, beautiful and exciting. I hope you enjoy it. So we're at Esther chapter 3. After these events, King Xerxes honoured Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, elevating him and giving him a seat of honour higher than that of all the other nobles. All the royal officials at the king's gate knelt down and paid homage to Haman, for the king had commanded this concerning him. But Mordecai would not kneel down or pay him honour. Interesting. So maybe you've seen those pictures of a Nazi rally where everybody is kneeling or saluting except one man in the crowd. He stands out, the courage of his convictions. Well, Mordecai, we've already had a bit of background about him. He is Jewish. He has shown great hospitality by welcoming Esther into his house as his own daughter. He's adopted her as much as that's possible in the Old Testament because she was an orphan. Her mother and father were both dead. And God has placed Esther into the royal throne room because, well, we'll see in a minute what's about to happen. But Mordecai is challenging the power of Haman. Now, some people think that's because of Haman's ancestry. He's an Agagite and they had a historic beef with the nation of Israel. And so that this could be a kind of a feudal thing going down through the centuries, or there might be more afoot. But let's have a little look. Verse 3. Then the royal officials at the king's gate asked Mordecai, "Why do you disobey the king's command?" Day after day they spoke to him, but he refused to comply. Therefore they told Haman about it to see whether Mordecai's behaviour would be tolerated, for he had told them he was a Jew. When Haman saw that Mordecai would not kneel or pay him honour, he was enraged. Yet, having learned who Mordecai's people were, he scorned the idea of killing only Mordecai. Instead, Haman looked for a way to destroy all Mordecai's people, the Jews throughout the whole kingdom of Xerxes. So it does seem that Mordecai knew there was more afoot with Haman and he wanted to resist him. And so big is Haman's ego, so full of himself, that he's willing to destroy not just one person but a whole race of people if this one man doesn't stand and doesn't bow to his authority. So this is about to be genocide. Now, I don't know, do you rewrite the story? Do you say, hang on, if Mordecai had bowed, then there would have been no threat to the Jewish nation? Or was it the other way around? Mordecai saw the danger that this leader has with his ego, and he actually knew there was going to be a problem, so he needed to resist here, wondering what would happen if he didn't otherwise. That's what it's been feeling like with the George Floyd response, hasn't it? That this is one step too far, that one particular police force overstepped its power and it caused incredible outrage that there was this death of a man, whether he was guilty or not of passing on a counterfeit $20 note or not, it doesn't matter, because you don't kill a man for that kind of crime. And so it felt like the nation in the USA was saying, this is too much. We can't allow this to pass. We've got to react. We've got to respond. And as the US has responded, the world has responded too, and agreed. This far and no more. Racism needs to be challenged. And we're seeing outworkings. Now, some people say, oh, look, it's just lockdown. People are bored. It's just a hashtag. Any excuse to get out on the streets and break all the kind of social distancing. I'm praying it's more than that. That this is a moment where it is time to resist and say no more. There have been some knock-on effects, haven't there? Companies that wouldn't normally get involved with Black Lives Matter getting involved. Even tea companies. I don't know if you saw Typhoo and PG Tips, Solidarity, or the NFL. This time last year, Colin Kaepernick was being outed from the game because he took a knee during the playing of the national anthem, and now the NFL is encouraging that. I don't know what restitution they're going to give to Colin Kaepernick, but the NFL is encouraging it. The times seem to be changing. This could be a moment for a different approach to race and racial injustice. And I think, as I read the Mordecai story, I think that's what he felt with Haman. I need to stop here. This is a dangerous person and he needs to be opposed right now. But huge consequences afoot. Doesn't sound like they're just going to kill the Jews in the palace. It's everywhere. And we know that King Xerxes' rule was from India to Kush. You remember that from the beginning. This is this huge empire and every Jew is about to be wiped out. This is the whole future of the Jewish nation. And if there's no Jewish nation, then there's not going to be a Messiah if every Jew has been killed. So this is incredibly significant in the whole big story of the Bible, and God's dealing with the universe, and it all comes down to one man resisting a despot when he saw him. Verse 7, in the 12th year of King Xerxes, in the first month, the month of Nisan, they cast the pur, that is the lot, in the presence of Haman, to select a day and a month, and the lot fell on the 12th month, the month of Adar. So they cast the lot, the pur, that's what it's called, P-U-R. And if you know your kind of Jewish festivals, you know that Purim is the date that they remember this event. So it's going to be reappropriated. This day that was supposed to be the day of execution for every Jew, cast randomly, it would seem, by the casting of the pur. But hold on, I don't want to give the story away. Verse 8. Then Haman said to King Xerxes, there is a certain people dispersed and scattered among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom, whose customs are different from those of all the other people, and who do not obey the king's laws. It is not in the king's best interest to tolerate them. If it pleases the king, let a decree be issued to destroy them, and I will put 10,000 talents of silver into the royal treasury for the men who carry out this business. So this is a personal vendetta from Haman, but he's trying to persuade the government to act according to his desires, and he's willing to stack up a whole bunch of cash, a lot of money, in order to get it done. Sometimes lobby groups try to do the same with government. Sometimes they chuck large amounts of money into campaign funds. Many people would see that with groups like Big Pharma. As long as they're contributing to the campaign funds of politicians, they own them, and therefore they can get politicians to do what they want. This seems to be something similar that's happening with Haman. He's an important man and he's a rich man. And does King Xerxes really want to get on the wrong side of him? Shouldn't he just let him do what he wants, even if it means exterminating a whole group of people? Verse 10, so the king took his signet ring from his finger, and he gave it to Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. Keep the money, the king said to Haman, and do with the people as you please. Wow. The king has been talked into it, and he's given his signet ring, the sign of authority that Haman can go and do what he wants. And here we have an early case of anti-Semitism. They're trying to wipe out a whole nation. Anti-Semitism is a horrific form of prejudice, of intolerance, of racial injustice. And look, we're in the middle of Black Lives Matter because we recognise that black people right now in all parts of America and many other parts of the world are getting a terrible deal. They're more likely, black men are more likely to be stopped and searched, they're more likely to be prosecuted, they're more likely to be in prison, and they're more likely to be killed by police officers, often white police officers. So we're not saying that only Black Lives Matter, but what we are saying in this moment, this is where we need to fight. This is the issue. So maybe you've seen it on Twitter. Someone tells you they've got cancer and you say, oh, that's terrible. All diseases are terrible. No, you need to be able to offer a cancer patient the help they need if their life is in danger. And so that's what's happening with Black Lives Matter. We're not saying that's the only equality issue that matters. Black race, no, but it's the pressing one now. But if we fight here against injustice for black people, hopefully we build a more just society that also manages to deal with other horrific intolerances such as anti-Semitism. The Jews needed to fight their corner then. They needed a Jewish Lives Matter movement. And who is going to lead that? Who's going to be at the heart of it? They are about to be exterminated. This is what happened next. Verse 12. Then on the 13th day of the first month, the royal secretaries were summoned. They wrote out in the script of each province and in the language of each people all Haman's orders to the king's satraps, the governors of the various provinces, and the nobles of the various peoples. These were written in the name of King Xerxes himself and sealed with his own ring. Dispatches were sent out by couriers to all the king's provinces with the order to destroy, kill and annihilate all the Jews. Did you hear that? Destroy, kill, annihilate. That's pretty awful, isn't it? It's pretty extensive. We're going to destroy, kill and annihilate all Jewish people. This is life and death. What will happen? Where is God? We're not hearing a lot about God. We're not hearing about prayer. We're not hearing about a nation coming in repentance to God. We're not hearing prophecy. Where is God? That's an ongoing question in the back of your mind when you hear the book of Esther being read. Where is God now? Well, that's another interesting question. We'll have to pick it up. Right. Kill and annihilate all the Jews, young and old, women and little children, on a single day, the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods. A copy of the text of the edict was to be issued as a law in every province and made known to the people of every nationality so that they would be ready for that day. This reminds me of the horrible events in Rwanda. When genocide was instilled in the nation, there was a day set when they were going to crush the cockroaches. That was the idea. And the dehumanization of a whole people group. They weren't considered human. They were to be cockroaches that were to be crushed. Similar thing here. The Jewish nation are going to be destroyed, killed and annihilated, and all their material goods plundered from them. It was like they were incentivizing this genocide. Verse 15, spurred on by the king's command, the couriers went out, and the edict was issued in the citadel of Susa. The king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Susa was bewildered. People can't understand why this is happening, where this has come from, and who will resist it, who will launch the Jewish Lives Matter campaign, where will God intervene, what will happen? Well, the scene has already been set. We know in chapter 2 that young Esther, beautiful Esther, has been chosen to be the King Xerxes' bride. And so she is installed in the palace. And we know we have a faithful Jewish man, Mordecai, an honourable, righteous man who's already stood against injustice. The scene is being set. What will happen next? Oh, don't you just love the Bible? It's got something to say into every cultural moment. It challenges us to live well now, here in lockdown, now in the middle of the Black Lives Matter movement, now in this moment in history. How will we be faithful to God's call? I don't know about you, but I think the Bible's really clear that every single human being is valuable to God. And it's absolutely abhorrent to God when one group of people are singled out and treated worse than any others, and that undermines the loving heart of God towards all people. And therefore, wherever there is a group of people that are undergoing persecution or prejudice or intolerance or structural racism, that's where we need to fight. And so I think we, the church, have a responsibility to get involved in all that is good about the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm not saying you condone everything that's done under the banner of Black Lives Matter, whether that's violence against civilians or the police, or whether it's looting. That's not at the heart of the movement. There is a common cause at the heart of the movement that coheres with a Christian understanding of human personhood, that every single person matters to God. And therefore, it's appropriate for us to play our part as godly, righteous, holy as we can be, members of churches, as good citizens, as good neighbours, as fellow human beings. We stand alongside all that's good in the movement. Friends, whatever you can do to advance justice, peace, compassion and grace that's in line with Scripture's teaching, do that. And I think we can see some breakthroughs. I don't think we'll ever live in a completely just society, but we can see a bit of breakthrough, a little bit of the light of the kingdom of God breaking into this moment, giving people a taste of what God celebrates and enjoys, and a taste of the life to come. That's part of our calling. So friends, let's do our part. I'm looking forward to getting into Esther chapter 4 with you tomorrow. But until then, have a fantastic day. See you tomorrow on FAQ.